Hi everybody, welcome to the Deep Thought. My name's Hasib, and today I just want to talk to you guys about an idea, a fantasy, a hypothesis, just something that I've thought about on and on and on, and I just want to share it with everybody because I want to know if there are people out there that are thinking about the same things. I want to know if there is just anybody out there that thinks in the same realm. But today I just really want to talk about an idea of what it means, or better yet, how the universe developed. Now, I don't want to. I want to make this very clear. I'm not trying to authoritatively say that this is how the universe came to be. It's just something. It's just an idea that I have thought about, and it's not about the beginning of the universe. It's about how it came into being and created everything that we see today. All this beautiful, magnificent stuff that we see on every day. So I just want to start off by thinking about the very first thing that probably came into existence, which was probably something along the lines of a frequency. The reason I say that is because when we think about light, and how it travels, we think about it in the form of a wave. And then when we measure it, we think about it in the form of a particle, because when we measure it, we measure a certain point that light or anything, any frequency or any wave travels. So under that assumption that the universe came into being through a wave and essentially created other waves from itself, kind of like the duplication of blood cells inside of our bodies, we can come to the conclusion that if this is the case, then it's also true that a wave would do the same thing, thus causing and creating other particles to come into being. So right here, I want to come to a point to understand that I want to make very clear that the universe very well could have started from the snap of a finger. That sound that you hear, that frequency that is emitted through the snap of a finger. Now, I don't want people to jump to the conclusion that it was God or the concept, the misconception of God that we have today that had created this wave in the first place. But that's neither here nor there. I just want to put that out there. Because when we think about this wave traveling through space, creating the very first particle, and then duplicating itself, creating other particles, creating multiple particles. So, obviously it would split off from 1 into 2, and that was the first one was the start. From the 1 to the 2, 2 to the 4, 4 to the 8, 8 to the 16, 16 to the 32. And then we start seeing mutations within these particles. We start seeing them, each division of each particle starts being influenced by the space that it is encapsulating. So right now, when we think about outer space, we think about the emptiness, the vast darkness, and the cold, deep dark abyss environment that it holds for anything outside of a certain type of atmosphere that Earth has for us. So when these particles came into existence, they began mutating and adapting to their environment. And this might sound a little similar to a past video that I made about how humans started off on the planet Earth, and we started adapting to our environments naturally after we started splitting off into different tribes. But when we think about it from the particle perspective, that every particle, once they started dividing from the original particle, they started mutating. They started creating They started creating different genetic deformations within themselves as the little particles that they are, and they were infusing themselves with other ones as well. So while this whole game of bonding was happening in outer space from that very first particle, and so on from the division and the mutations, we would then begin to get what we would call gases in outer space, just floating gases in space. And at some point, through obviously a very heavy gas presence, as well as bonding through the chemical mutations that each little particle had, developing itself into a sort of cell, and mutating and bonding. At some point, we would see that the particles that were mutating and bonding have formulated into something that would be the size of a chickpea. And this very first little piece of mass would be what we would call possibly the very first formation of a planet. Or, in our sense, a chickpea. Because it would be so tiny. And then they continue to grow, they continue to accumulate, they continue to bond with other particles, other cells around them in that little gas cloud that they were in, and they began creating and formulating something even larger than a chickpea. So there, at some point, they would create something the size of a golf ball. They would then create something the size of a soccer ball, then a basketball, and eventually, at some point, after accumulating so much and bonding with so many different types of particles that have been mutating and still developing as well as multiplying, they would create a vast world, or what we would define as a world, a planet, filled with all these different types of chemicals. So we see the Earth. We just, when we think about the Earth, we only see the dirt. For most of us, we only assume that the Earth is just mainly dirt. It's just made of mainly dirt, which isn't true. There's all sorts of minerals and metals that are within our planet that we are constantly mining for. So, while these planets were forming, they were also formulating the different types of organisms and developing themselves into the organisms that could survive in these harsh environments that then would be called planets. So, like on our planet Earth, we would eventually an asteroid hit here somewhere, carrying the seed of a tree, and eventually that tree, or that little seed, that seed was in an environment which wasn't hostile to it, which wouldn't have killed it, and it began to sprout, it began to grow, thus creating the very first piece of oxygen on this planet in its developmental stages. And then, of course, from this, other things began impacting onto this planet Earth, that was, formulated still from that original first one that has been accumulated through gas clouds and all that, and so on and so forth. And other asteroids began impacting on the face of the planet, as well as throwing off any type of genetic material to create new life or create new organisms. And while it was doing, while everything is going on, everything is still growing in other galaxies, and other nebulae, whatever floats your boat. But you see, this is essentially the way that everything could have possibly started. And I'm not saying this authoritatively. Again, I can't say this with authority that I am right, but it's just an idea. Now, with this also comes the idea of with this manifestation of organisms, also comes the decomposition of the organisms as well. So we manifest ourselves through through these organisms, and then we decompose, and then bond to other types of organisms. Now, this is just an idea of some would call it reincarnation, but it's simply just the recycling of the things that actually formulate the organism that we are right now. Now, so when we think about decomposition, we also have to think about it at a grand scale, just like we did about the creation of all the planets, of everything, all the organisms and everything, from that single wave, from that single snap, that single frequency. So when we think about the decomposition of everything breaking down, we first have to think about, all of the stars, first of all, exploding. At some point, everything is going to go off in a fiery blaze. Our planet included, our very beautiful planet that we see here, called Earth, is going to go off in a fiery blaze at some point, and it's not going to exist anymore. Or it's just not going to be here for a short while, should I say. So every star starts erupting, including the suns, all the stars that are emitting the heat. They'll probably most likely be the last one standing. And once those stars become start going off and exploding, such as our beautiful sun that we have right now, blaring me in the face, we can understand that essentially at some point there will not be any type of planets formulating after they explode. Now, this is just a popular belief that, once a star explodes, that all the gases and everything that it leaves out won't bond back together and recreate a different type of life and formulate it in a certain specific way. This is just a fear-based idea, and I want to get into this one. So when we think about it, you can think about it in such a way that, when everything's exploding, going off, and getting sucked into the black holes, because after all of the stars are gone, we are left with just simply black holes. Now, we don't actually understand everything that we would want to about black holes, but from our current perspective, all we can say is that they take everything into the universe, all the debris, every molecule, every chemical, everything, and take it into its magnetic field, and then it's gone forever. That's what we believe. But I want to take it a step further, because people also say that once a black hole does that, and once everything is gone and dead and left into a black hole, that there will only be black holes sucking each other up. There will only be black holes that are colliding into one another, exploding, creating other debris, and then that debris is going to get sucked into another black hole, which is going to create a supermassive black hole. And at some point, there will only be two black holes circling each other, kind of like two atoms circling one another, until at some point these super extremely massive black holes collide into one another, and then let all the debris right back out into the universe like the Big Bang. And then what happens is all that debris flies right back out. Everything that's been sucked in to storage, I like to use the analogy of storage, that a black hole is used as storage for the universe. So when the two black holes finally meet together and implode in this fiery, beautiful blaze of, fire within the dark space that we see, it will let out every single thing that it has collected, all the gases, all the chemicals, all the materials, everything. And it will, there again, start again. The cycle will begin again. But this time it actually has something to keep it going. So we're constantly going through the cycle of bonding, chemicals bonding, creating new realities after every cycle. And what we can also conclude from this idea is that at some point, and this may very well terrify some people, at some point, the very same reality that we have experienced before in a previous life, in a previous existence, will happen again. So this conversation that we're having right now, or this idea that I'm putting out there, has already happened. It has already happened, and we have already come to this conclusion. Whether or not it's the right conclusion or the false one, we'll never know. But at some point, this has happened throughout this cycle of existence. And that's where I'm going to leave that. I hope you guys had a fantastic time watching this video. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Remember to like it, share it, whatever. Let your friends know about it. Let's have a conversation. Talk to me about this stuff, guys. Leave me some comments in the comment section below, and let's have a conversation. I'd really love that. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I love all of you, and I hope you guys take care. Bye.